Hey guys, it's Tate. Today I want to talk about a mental framework I've created called the engine, which will help you build OP builds in the Bazaar. Let's take a look at the engine in motion when it's at its full strength. We just watched a highly efficient engine in motion and it tore through our opponent. This build was centered around burn, applying massive amounts of it via the Oni Mask item. Oni Mask is the engine of this build, and I like to think of it as an engine because we're fueling it with critical strikes, and therefore we're getting output of higher burn on our items. So we're pairing our engine with items like incendiary rounds because when incendiary rounds gets more burn applied on it, the items that are used next to it are applying a massive amount of burn to our opponent. So in this one, we're using dive weights to have a lot of item triggers, which is, next to our incendiary rounds, applying a lot of burn. And we're supporting our build with critical strike chance skills so that when they crit, it scales that burn. So let's take a look at the full picture here. On the right, I have the Oni Mask item. And down on the bottom, let's take a look at the skills. We have higher critical strike chance that was scaling throughout the run and just a flat amount of crit. And we have two burn items, or two burn skills, sorry, to help with our burn scaling on our items. Now, almost every item on my board has burn, except for the Zorsid. But what's really happening here is these items are going to crit, scale their burn, and apply a massive amount of burn. So the whole engine is being applied with the Oni Mask item. We're critting with all of the other items, giving them more and more burn, which is applying more burn, and as you saw, tore through our opponent. All right, so how do we apply the engine framework in our runs? Well, the things that I like to look for in an engine are one, a win condition vector, two, scaling, and three, the ease of fueling your engine. Let's dive into all three of those topics. A win condition vector is how we plan to defeat our opponent in a PvP battle. For Vanessa, four simple concepts would be applying a lot of burn, doing a lot of weapon damage, applying poison, or simply putting up a lot of defenses and letting the sandstorm kill our opponent. So I like to have highly synergistic vectors on our board. So if I'm playing burn, I want all of my items to contribute to doing burn. I don't really want half of my board doing burn and half of my build doing poison and vice versa, right? And also I don't want to have a lot of weapon damage but then have a lot of items dedicated to poison. You really want your build to be highly synergistic, kind of all contributing to the same vector. Now, definitely have some defenses in your build. Like it's really good to have burn and defense or damage and defense. But the concept here is to strategize how you're all in on one vector and utilizing some other vectors to either support your engine or just help you engage with that win condition. Scaling is the concept that your items are going to do more and more throughout the duration of your PvP fight. So for example, if I had the skill Tempering, which is when you use a weapon it gains 3 damage, and I had an item like Katana, which is a weapon that attacks every 2 seconds, and in this example does 8 damage, that means after 2 seconds it'll do 8 damage, but then the next time it goes it'll do 11 damage, and the next time it goes it'll do 14 damage. So that is the concept of scaling, and it is very powerful in the Bazaar, and it is worth looking into when you're building an engine. So now let's talk about the concept of ease of fueling your engine. So on the left, I have an item, Cauterizing Blade, which has two quests available to you. You can either slow 10 times or haste 10 times, and when you do that, you then get the ability of when you slow, this gains damage. So this item is an engine because it's going to scale when you slow an item or when you haste an item. And this is an easy item to fuel because you have the flexibility of when you pick it of either having a bunch of slow in your build or a bunch of haste in your build, and it's pretty linear. The more you slow, the more this item does damage, or the more you haste, the more this item does damage. However, there are other engines in the Bazaar which require a little bit more support or other conditions to be met in order for it to be strong. So if we look at Blunderbuss, what it does is it deals damage and it has ammo. It has 2 ammo to start and 4 at diamond. and when you burn, use this item. So if you burn twice, this item runs out of ammo. So in order for this engine to be powerful, this item either needs to have a lot more ammo with like with skills that apply more ammo, or items like cannonball that give you more ammo, or you have a bunch of gunpowders that you give this a ton of ammo so that it can cast more than twice or four times if it's diamond. Or you have a bunch of reload, so you can pair this next to a ramrod to reload it every 3 seconds, and then when you burn, it's using this and it's reloading all of its ammo. But as you can imagine, this takes a little bit more setup. So when evaluating if an item is a good engine for you, you also need to consider, well, what support do I have for that engine? All right, so now I want to give a few examples of how to utilize the engine framework in your Bazaar runs. So this is an example of an early game evaluation of a shop. So I already have a Piranha. It's day one, it's the second hour, and I'm presented with the options of Narwhal, Seashell, and Switchblade. So what I immediately see here is that Switchblade, Piranha, and Narwhal would all be contributing to the damage vector of winning a PvP fight. The Switchblade is adding scaling to this, and the ease of fueling my engine is really simple because the engine in this case would be Switchblade next to Piranha and Narwhal, which would scale the damage of the Narwhal and the Piranha. I could easily add to this engine by getting more friends to making my that which would then make my Piranha cast more often, which would get more scaling and do more damage. Now, I could also grab the Seashell here just to add a little bit of defense, but this is a way to sort of think about that engine of, okay, Switchblade, Narwhal, Piranha, all synergistic, all contributing to the same goal. Let's take those items. All right, now let's take a look at evaluating a mid-game engine. So in this situation, it's important to start with, well, what is my current engine? Well, my current engine is fast weapons being scaled with shark claws and utilizing wetware to provide a little bit of defense. So wetware is scaling my defense vector when I use my fast weapons, and the shark claws are going to give my fast-paced weapons more damage so that they scale throughout the fight. Now, I have a shop here where I'm presented with Shark Ray, which is an engine in itself. The engine of Shark Ray is when you haste a friend, your friends gain more damage. And that is a very powerful engine that I want to start shaping my build around. So I need to look and evaluate, well, can I support it? So how easy is it for me to fuel this engine right now? Well, at the surface level, it's not very easy because I don't have anything to haste friends with. But let's take a look at the stash. So when we go into my stash, we can see that I have a Zorsid, which is a item which will haste the two adjacent items, which so then I could put friends next to it. And it's hard to see in this screenshot, but this chum is a turbo chum, so it will haste an item as well. So I do have the ability to haste friends, deterministically with the Zorsid and then randomly with the chum. So we can go back to this decision and say, okay, well, what would I replace? Well, we want to keep this fast friend on the right. We don't necessarily need to keep the shark claws anymore because the new scaling engine is the shark ray. So, okay, I now have, what is this, 6 spots that I can replace, and I need 1, 2 slots with the shark ray. Sea Shadow is a friend that casts quickly. I'm going to take the Sea Shadow here too. So that's 2 more spaces. And then I have, 3 spaces in my stash. So what ends up happening is I take both the Shark Ray and the Sea Shadow, and then I create this board where I have Wetware still providing a little bit of defense, but I have the Piranha and the Sea Shadow being hasted by the Zorsid, which will then be scaled by the Shark Ray, and the Marlin's doing some quick damage as well. So this is now my new board around my new engine of the Shark Ray. All right, now let's evaluate a late game engine. So in this example, I've recently gotten to level 16, so I have a level up option of either taking an upgraded item or a gold skill. Now, a gold skill could feed into my engine, and upgrading an item could also feed into my engine. So what's better here? Well, first of all, let's take a look at what my engine is, and it's the submarine item paired with a crow's nest and a submersible, plus a scoped weapon and a silencer. So what this is doing is it's allowing the submarine to be the only item on my board, and this item then gets reduced durations of slow and freeze. It also is gaining lifesteal and crit from the crow's nest. The submersible is scaling the damage and the shielding coming from it. So ultimately, it's just this one build weapon where it's scaling damage, it's applying shields, and it's healing you with life still. It's very strong. Now I have two skills down here that are important to note. I have Fists of Fury and Shield Blast. So what the Fists does is whenever I use my weapon, it'll charge an item 1 second. So in this build, there's only two items that actually have a cooldown. So it'll either charge itself a second or charge our scaling 1 second. And then Shield Bash is whenever an enemy uses a non-weapon item, it'll charge my weapon 1 second. So this is already lower than a 2 second cooldown because it's diamond plus the cooldown reduction of the items and some of the skills that I have in this build. So it's casting very quickly and it's triggering these skills, and in return it's scaling and charging, and it's really synergistic. Now this level up option could give me more crit from the scoped weapon, which isn't that interesting to me because I'm already higher than 100% crit, or I could get more scaling damage. Now there is also some items in my stash that could be upgraded, mainly the dam. So the dam, when it's upgraded, changes from being charged 1 second when an aquatic item casts to being charged 2 seconds when an aquatic item casts. And as I described earlier, this board, this aquatic item in the submarine is casting quite frequently due to its low cooldown plus the support of these skills. So in this specific situation, I feel as though it's actually going to be a more powerful engine to upgrade the dam, because with the dam casts, it's going to destroy all items that are medium or small from my board and my opponent's board. But I have two large items, so I'm still going to have my win condition going off, even if all these other items get destroyed. So upgrading the dam was what I went with, and now this build is centered around the submarine casting as much as possible. And if an enemy uses an item, it's going to charge my submarine, which then in return is going to charge my dam, and it's either going to charge itself or the dam. So as you can imagine, this dam is going to cast and it's going to destroy my opponent's whole board. And since this is a fun engine, I wanted you guys to see it, so I'm going to roll the clip. All right, so that's the engine framework I like to think about when I go about my Bazaar runs. I've honestly had so much fun with it because it feels like every single game there's something new to explore. You know, you're not really pigeonholed into running the same build over and over again. You're able to dynamically let your engine evolve over time, and the Bazaar is such a repeatable game that it's a new experience every single time. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. As you can see, like and subscribe. Also comment, let me know if you have anything that you'd like to see in the future, or if you just have a fun little video of an engine that you've put together that you'd like to share. And with that, thank you very much, and I appreciate it.